seek this information because everybody wants to get ahead. We know we got to be the best to get ahead. So how you give you the best to get ahead? You got to exercise your mind. So you got to read. You know what I'm saying? So it done changed a whole lot.
The game has changed, period.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to go a step further in the aspect and say, not only for the darker pale of skin, but per se verbatim, because a lot of things that were once said when we were growing up is not applicable, not to just us, but it's applicable to everyone now. Is getting just a taste of what we have had to deal with all our entire lives.
Right.
And the funny thing about that there is that I think love is the antidote that will prevail eventually for this country. You have to have love for your fellow man, as it states. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
That has altered. We'll get into that there a little bit in the aspect that there was always a Miss Jones or Miss Johnson that knew everybody on the block.
Right.
I'm going to speak of this here with the young people today. Not all of them, but there was a certain code of ethic, whereas when you saw an older person, you straightened up.
Right.
You care to speak on that?
Well, you have
Because we're older now. We don't look it. We don't look broke down like our parents because maybe, as they told us, you're going to do better than me. Regardless of what it is, try to be amongst the best. Isn't that what they said?
That's right.
So, in that aspect, would you parlay on that? Do you see that coming to fruition again?
Ooh, that's a tough one, because when you look in terms of the material that we're putting out in the arts, most of it is derogatory. And when the kids get that, they go south. Where when we was in that era, it was neighborly. We had the neighborhood. Your neighbor knew you. People knew you. People would say hello to you. People would say, how you doing? Good morning, this stuff like that. All that's missing. We had God in the school. We used to do, God was one of the first things in school. You had to do your pledge of allegiance on one God under the liberty before you even went into school. All that's gone. They taking, from what I heard, they taking cursive out. The kids ain't gonna know how to write no more.
I shouldn't say they don't know how, but I was doing some applications the other day for a couple of scholar athletes. I said, it says, put your signature. He printed his name again. Cursive writing is not in the schools,
well, that's
from
only,
what I was told.
That's probably only in the schools of our neighborhood. When you go to other neighborhoods, is it there? And I bet you, I guarantee you, somebody is teaching them, and that's where the parents have to come in. Whatever they ain't teaching your kids in school, you better be teaching them at home.
Question, and you're gonna love this, because we're from the same town, same era. Someone always took time with us, even the wino. Do you see that now?
You don't see it because these kids is doing mean things to these people. They're setting people on fire and knocking people in the head, and it's a mean world out here. So things have changed a whole lot. It's not like what it used to be, and it takes a lot to get back to what.
Do you know a reason why?
Well, it's the psychological attitude that has changed. Whatever your mind is eating or whatever you feed in your mind, it conceives it and it reacts to it.
Well, I've heard.
That's why you got these guys going to these schools with the guns and shooting and stuff like that. We're not putting out nothing to change this curriculum.
Well, are you speaking of Google per se? That's what it sounds like. Because you used to have to go to the library, what was it, 75 cents? And if you took a book, even to this day, we were still owed $1.50.
That's right.
They don't go to the library. Some do, but it seems, I'll say this here. There was the choir boy, the mama's boy, the hoodlum.
Right.
I didn't say thug, I said hoodlum. And then there was the bookworm and the athlete. Those are 5 different characteristics of individuals at adolescence age. You can't put all of these kids in one caboodle, because for about 20 years the kids couldn't go to the parks. So now this is new. Then we had the pandemic. So it's kind of new that you socialize, you congregate, and you don't know what happened in those 2 years to a young person's minds, because that is the developing time of social development, because as an adolescent, the only thing that you have is your popularity. That's of great importance. Whereas as you go older, it's a time you're going to go through. Want to speak of that there? Because you went through that there during the riot time.
Well, you can't just leave it on the teacher, because the parent has to take play. Because you got to understand, a child learns from the time he get out of the womb up until the age of maybe 21. If he goes to college, he'll learn a little bit more. But if you don't get a higher education or trade or something like that, you're not learning anything unless you're teaching yourself how to produce or learn something new. So what happens is, you take these guys on the street, they drop out in the 9th grade. Nobody's teaching them nothing but the streets. So you learn what you learn on the streets, because that's what you're learning, that's what you know. So you're not going to grow because you're in the wrong spot.
You're going to grow in that aspect.
Yeah, you're going to grow in that aspect. But what that is, 10
Dead
in
end.
life, 20
Undefeated.
in life,
Undefeated.
lifetime in prison.
Streets is
You know
undefeated.
what I'm saying? So you can't possibly learn. You got to either know something about reading, getting to the next level, or somebody has to teach you. And most kids, when they reach 18, they think they're grown anyway.
I would say before
Most parents put them out the house by the time they get 18, whether they're in college or whatever.
Well, Shaheed, let me say this here in that aspect. A lot of the young people, you know and I know, if you didn't do what the house rules were, you didn't have to go, but you was going to leave here.
Well, eventually you would have had to go.
Now, it seems to me there are more kids doing the right thing than the wrong thing because of the peer pressure. And it's not even those that are of the same analytical age. It's older individuals that are pulling them into this.
You know what happened? They have this thing called cell phone, iPhone. They're so pacified with that. If you took that away from them, they wouldn't know how the world would evolve. Because remember, we came up in a time where there wasn't no cell phone. You had to wait till you got back home if you got a phone to get a message. We had to learn stuff.
If you had a phone.
That made us go learn. This thing here, all you gotta do is ask it. It's
Well,
called the smartphone.
We've gotten
So they
lazy
pacify.
too, because we've come into that foe. If you don't say a number, and even a number that you might know, but you call it so frequent. If you lose your phone and you didn't memorize the number, you just hit a switch.
Right.
The difference is that it's called brain power. And older lads, older gentlemen would see something in you and they'd stop you. Now no one is stopping young people because, as you stated, the family. How important is your last name to you? Because I was always told that's your greatest asset.
Right.
You take my money, you take nothing. But you damage the name, you've destroyed me.
Well, my family name means a lot to me. As my character, I want to be remembered for my grandchildren and my children's grandchildren after their children. So it's going to mean, it means a lot to me because they get to study the history of who I was, like I studied the history of who my parents were before. So it means a lot. It means
Immediate and instant gratification, was that ever a part of your plight?
to what?
Instant and immediate gratification, was that ever a part of your plight when you began to model, when you were playing football? What was it that was of most importance to you? Was it that? for the outside, or was it for your family to feel proud that you're productive?
Well, I want my mom to feel proud, definitely. And my homies, I wanted them to feel proud, even
So
though,
it is a place.
because my homies was,
So it
they
is
was
a
on the
place for
street,
your
on the block.
homies. So it is a place for your homies. We're going to go back in the
Yeah.
aspect now of the importance of your peers.
Yeah, of course.
But your peers would stop you if you was derailing, going the wrong way, because they knew that you wasn't built for that, or you could have been built for that, but they saw better for you.
Yeah, I mean, the peers, you know, it's like, those were my real friends. Those
Still are.
Those were my real brothers. So they rooted for me because they know what the situation they was in. Going to prison, getting locked up, some getting killed, some dying, whatever. And when they see me, they was like, oh man, you getting there, or you got there. I seen you on such and such, I seen that. So that's a beautiful thing when you got somebody from your family recognizing you to do something on the right path.
Because there are so many intangibles pulling at you,
Yeah.
pulling at all of us from an urban vicinity.
Cause just keep in mind, I've been in places that I never thought I was gonna be able to get in. I've been on stuff I ain't never. I mean, millions and millions of covers. I ain't no household name, but I've been on a lot of publications and different covers. There's been millions that show millions of products. So, just being able to accomplish them goals. I mean, I went from up north to Antarctica.
I was going to ask you to speak about
That's the last place on the planet. And then I go from Antarctica to Mecca, the highest place on the planet. So just being able to get to those places saying, wow, man, how did I do this? The creator and belief.
You know, you spoke of that. That's very true to me. My daddy said, if there's no hope, there's no faith. If you have no faith, you can't believe. Would you please take that further for the people that are watching, especially for the young folks, within themselves, the belief, the hope?
Faith will take you a long place, and you don't have to have a whole lot of money. You don't have to have a whole lot of all that. All you got to do is have faith and believe. It will take you to some places that you thought you never could make it. You got it, and once you believe and you have faith, the higher power, if you don't believe it, look at some of the greatest people in the world. The first thing they mention is God, because they know without him, they wouldn't be able to do it.
Now, what about hope?
Yeah,
You gotta give me some hope.
Yeah, you gotta hope. Well, hope is great. Hope, yeah, definitely. Hope is the thing that you open up. But the faith gets you closer. You walk in the name of God, and you keep on moving.
It's not easy.
No,
Explain
it
that.
ain't easy. You gotta walk.
Explain that.
It's not easy. You ever heard that old saying? You gotta walk through fire.
I have.
Well, that's what it's like, walking through fire.
But once you get to the other side.
To get to it, yeah. To get
Once
to
you get to the other side.
The only way you're gonna get to the other side of fire, you got to have faith. If you in a burning house and you trying to live, and you know there's no other way to get through unless you going through the door
or the window, you're gonna get out of it.
You're gonna say, oh God, help me. You know? You gotta have faith. You know what I mean? You gotta have faith in God.
You gotta believe you're gonna get there.
To get through that door. Yeah. It ain't no joke, man. I mean, a lot of places that I was in the modeling industry. Mm-hmm. You know, modeling industry, it can be a real cold place.
But wait a minute. This doesn't look like you was in no turbulence place.
No. Some places it's real cold. I don't want to elaborate too much on it. It was cold. And I kid you no lie, I had to go in the corner and say, oh God, please, if you get me out of this situation, please, I promise I'll never get myself caught up in this again. You know what I mean? Man, hey, it's a scary world. I mean, when you in this, the industry is scary anyway.
Really?
You got some psychos.
Egotistical
that will lead you in the wrong route.
Would you say egotistical?
Yeah, you got some psychos and they thinking that they God and they could do this and do that and won't nobody know. So you got some crazy weirdos out there.